In this video, you'll learn how to generate enough wealth to free yourself from work long before retirement age. Is it true that you are spending the greatest long stretches of your life caught in a callous workspace? Do you battle to set aside cash or make a decent living? Maybe you're overpowered by obligation and simply don't have a clue how to excel. This is actually how millennial Grant Sabatier felt when he was 24, only 5 years after the fact. He'd freed himself from the need to work until the kingdom came. Ward accomplished this without getting a huge legacy. He built up a monetary system that would make him monetarily autonomous. And he remained focused on his objective. In these chapters, we'll investigate Grant's procedure so you can begin making your own guide to independence from the rat race. In these chapters, you'll learn what Einstein viewed as the eighth marvel of the world, why spending plans aren't that useful with regards to making abundance, and how one millennial is set to turn into a mogul from $5 dog strolls. To reach financial freedom, you need to oppose accepted practices. In August 2010, the creator Grant Sabatier was at an unsurpassed low. At 24 years old, he was jobless and living with his folks. He'd worked hard for a very long time, almost 5,000 hours of his life, and had nothing to show for it aside from $2.26 in his ledger. At the point when Grant figured it out, he understood why it was so hard for an American millennial like him to save. Calculating an expansion, the normal pay for his age was not exactly 50% of what it was really going after guardians. What's more, there were understudy loan obligations to pay off besides. Regardless of whether Grant followed the recommended all-day working life for a very long time, there was no assurance that he'd have the option to resign serenely. It was a light bulb moment. The main message here is, to reach financial freedom, you need to oppose accepted practices. On the off chance that Grant needed to get away from the drudgery and weakness of the cutting-edge work environment, he'd need to accomplish something drastically unique. On that milestone day in 2010, he concluded he wasn't set up to slave away in a workspace for the most awesome aspect of his life. So he set himself an amazing objective. He would save $1,250,000, which would permit him to resign at the earliest opportunity. That way, he'd have the opportunity he expected to carry on with his optimal life. However, to do this, he expected to think outside the box that his loved ones fit themselves into. Ward began by getting the hang of all that he could about account and changed his insights about cash. It was anything but a limited asset to stress over. It was an instrument he could use to create more riches. Equipped with this new information, Grant built up a methodology to accomplish his investment fund's objective. His arrangement included working all day, dispatching to side organizations, and putting resources into the financial exchange. It was a requesting lifestyle choice, one that implied making penances. In any case, by 2015, Grant's abundance had developed from $2.26 to over $1 million. His reserve funds created enough interest for him to live off, without expecting to work if he would not like to. You also can accomplish monetary autonomy with Grant's methodology, which we'll investigate in these flickers. It will take difficult work and responsibility. However, the trade-offs you make today will get you long stretches of opportunity later on. The first step toward financial freedom is to calculate how much money you spend every year. Einstein is cited as naming intensifying the eighth miracle of the world. Exacerbating estimates your cash increment over the long haul, regardless of whether you don't add another penny to your speculation account. This happens because each dollar in your record produces revenue. If you don't pull out that premium, it produces its own revenue, basically giving you free cash. At the point when the creator Grant chose he needed to save $1,250,000, it wasn't because mogul had a decent ring to it. It was the base figure he expected to contribute with the goal that he could live serenely off the accumulating funds. He worked out how much cash he required each year, and afterward utilized that as the reason for figuring his investment fund's target. The main message here is, the first step toward financial freedom is to calculate how much money you spend every year. Every one of us has an exceptional vision of how we need to carry on with our lives. So there's no widespread number to focus on with regards to finding your reserve fund's target. Ward determined that he required $50,000 per year to live serenely in Chicago. But depending on how and where you live, you might need more or less. To compute your reserve fund's target, start by taking a gander at your present progressing costs, similar to lease or home loan installments, charges, utilities, protection, travel, instruction, food, and diversion. Work out how much cash you need to cover all your yearly costs. At that point, factor in any plans you have, such as having children, upsizing your home, or moving to a more costly area. Then break out your laptop and gap your yearly costs by 4%. The subsequent figure is your head the measure of cash you'll have to have put resources into a building account so you can live serenely off the premium. Anyway, why 4%? All things considered. This is the sweet spot with regards to living off your accumulated interest. Most interest builds at around 7%. Thus, on the off chance that you live off only 4%, your speculation will continue to develop and you're additionally considered swelling. This guarantees that you won't contact your head so it can continue to turn out your yearly revenue. Try not to be threatened if your investment fund's target is gigantic. When you separate it after some time, it'll feel more reasonable. Keep in mind, you're on an excursion that will require a couple of years. The wizardry of compounding will help you en route. Before you set your financial plan into motion, you must understand your beginning position, regardless of whether you're going someplace exceptional holiday, dispatching another business, or setting out on parenthood. Each excursion has a beginning stage. On the way to independence from the rat race, that beginning stage is your total assets or your in general monetary worth. With regard to keeping up monetary autonomy, your total assets are the main figure. This is because it will control your monetary procedure. It goes about as the reference point, revealing to you how far you need to go before you arrive at your reserve funds target. Without it, you're similar to a boat without a rudder. The main message here is, before you set your financial plan into motion, you must understand your beginning position. To figure your total assets, start by taking a gander at your resources. Resources are anything you own that has financial worth. Remembering cash for ledgers and annuity reserves, make a rundown of anything you own that is worth more than $100. Record how much cash you'd get for everything on the off chance that you sold it. On the off chance that you sold your $500 sofa, for example, you may get $60. Incorporate everything from your vehicle and any land to fine art and adornments. Include all out of your bank adjust and assess deal cost. That figure addresses your resources. Then ascertain your liabilities. Liabilities are the measures of cash you owe, from visa adjustments to home loans and understudy loan obligations. Make a rundown of every one of your obligations at that point, including the aggregate sum of cash you owe. That figure addresses your liabilities. Presently, deduct your liabilities from your resources. The outcome is your total assets. Try not to freeze if your total assets are a negative number. The creator Grant had $20,000 worth of MasterCard obligation when he began his excursion to independence from the rat race. Factor in your obligation by adding it to your reserve funds target. At the point when Grant did that, his $1,250,000 became $1,270,000. In the event that your total assets are a positive number, that is extraordinary information. Deduct any pay your resources produce from your reserve funds target. Similar to lease from a property you own, begin putting away this cash straight away, so that you're drawing nearer to your monetary objective. Go through 5 minutes of consistently following your total assets. This may appear to be a weight from the start, yet as your abundance develops, this day-by-day custom will keep you persuaded about saving. To manage your spending, work out the amount of your life you're exchanging for each thing. Odds are, you make little solace buys each day, similar to that morning espresso before you hit the workplace. Frequently, these ceremonies don't amount to a lot, and they infuse bliss into your day. Yet, when you're running after independence from the rat race, you need to change how you esteem what you buy. A thing's actual expense isn't its ticket cost. It's the number of hours you need to work so you can get it. Also, remember, the ticket cost incorporates charge, yet your salary doesn't. To purchase that $3 espresso, you really need to make a $4 pre-charge. The main message here is, to manage your spending, work out the amount of your life you're exchanging for each thing. In any case, shouldn't something be said about that new outfit, occasion, or vehicle? How long at the work area will that set you back? Furthermore, what are you losing in accumulated dividends by making that buy rather than putting away the cash? When you move your mentality to see things regarding hours of your life, they'll start to look more extravagant. Changing your attitude toward buying doesn't mean you need to quit purchasing things. You simply need to comprehend what the genuine expense of your buy is, so you can assess whether it's justified despite any trouble. To do that, you need to ascertain your hourly pay rate. Simple, right? Doubtlessly, you simply partition your week after week pay by the number of hours you work. All things considered, if you do that, you're undercutting yourself. Shouldn't something be said about each one of those hours you spend managing job-related things that you don't get paid for, such as driving, pressing shirts, going to twilight capacities, or defocusing? At the point when you consider that time, it may fundamentally decrease your hourly rate. When you realize the amount you procure every hour, You'll have the option to work out the genuine expense of each thing you buy. Utilizing this figure as a source of perspective will help lessen your drive or enthusiastic purchasing. All things considered, you can consider all the accumulated dividends that cash will make in your speculation account, taking you dollar by dollar toward exiting the workforce. Cutting back on your housing, transport, and food costs will essentially build your reserve funds. Financial plans are somewhat similar to eating fewer carbs, with allurement prowling in each shop and online store. They're not difficult to break. What's more, when you break them, you feel so remorseful that you frequently surrender inside and out. The issue with financial plans is that they give you the feeling that cash is scant by compelling you to represent each penny. In any case, spending plans infrequently help you save essentially, since little reserve funds are normally eclipsed by the bigger, progressing costs. The most ideal approach to enhance saving and control spending is to focus on these enormous expenses. What's more, this implies investigating the big three. The main message here is, cutting back on your housing, transport, and food costs will essentially build your reserve funds. The normal American family spends around 60% of its pay on three principal zones: lodging, transport, and food. In 2016, this was around $35,000 every year. In the event that families slice this down to 30%, they'd have an extra $17,500 every year to contribute over a 20-year venture period. This sum would develop to a bewildering $835,000. Right, so how would you cut back on the big three? How about we start with number 1? Lodging. Most Americans spend about 33% of their pay on lodging. Yet you don't need to, where conceivable. Scale back or move to a more reasonable area for a set time frame. A couple of years in a less expensive home will give your investment funds a huge lift. Presently for number 2. Transport. Possessing a vehicle is another enormous continuous expense. And it's not simply the price tag or credit reimbursements doing the harm. Cruising all over 15,000 miles a year will cost you an extra $8,000 in gas, upkeep, and protection. Public vehicle or vehicle sharing alternatives are an extraordinary method to avoid those extra costs, on the off chance that they won't work for you. Think about a Sulk or bike, in addition to the fact that they are more financially savvy than a vehicle. But on the other hand, they're fun and cool as well. Furthermore, how would you cut back on the third of the big three, food? For a beginning, some online retailers offer a markdown for rehash orders. To exploit this, make a rundown of things your family consistently utilizes, then submit a custom request with a limiting site. Furthermore, when you eat out, exploit special arrangements and stick to drinking faucet water. Mean to save at least 25% of your pay. By diminishing your big three, this will definitely lessen the number of years it'll take you to arrive at your reserve funds target. Proactively search for approaches to enhance your all-day check, so you can arrive at monetary freedom sooner. For a large number of us, the working environment is an island we visit 5 days per week. At the point when we revisit the territory, we make an effort not to consider everything, regardless of whether we love what we do. We need to spend our valuable non-working hours with our friends and family and seeking after our interests. This outlook is totally justifiable. But when we see our jobs in a bubble, and not as a component of our abundance building technique, we cheat ourselves of chances that help our monetary objectives. The key message here is, proactively search for approaches to enhance your all-day check so you can arrive at monetary freedom sooner. The primary spot to look at is your annuity reserve. Almost certainly, your work environment will surrender you free cash to a predefined sum by coordinating any extra commitments you make to it. However, the advantages don't end there. At whatever point you add to your benefits reserve, that sum is removed from your cover before the charge. This diminishes your general available pay. Furthermore, since your annuity reserve is essential for your resources, it likewise adds to your investment funds target. The second way you can enhance your check is by requesting a raise. This can feel scary, or in any event, humiliating. In any case, on the off chance that you correctly approach your solicitation, you can eliminate a great deal of that distress. Start by researching what different organizations are paying representatives in your comparable job. Online occupation notices will assist you with this. At that point, consider your apparent incentive to the organization. Where do you take on duties outside your job? Which commitments have you made to organizational results? Whenever you've got your work done, pick your planning shrewdly. Your manager will consider your incentive before an exhibition survey, or toward the finish of a financial year when new spending plans are being set up. Present your solicitation for a compensation increment as a rate, not a measure of cash. 10% is definitely less substantial than $5,000, so your manager will be bound to concur. The third and last approach to advance your check is to check whether you can work distantly. This removes your driving time and costs and gives you more prominent adaptability, as indicated by the 2016 Gallup Street Aid of the American Workplace Report. Representatives working distantly 3 to 4 days, 7 days have the most noteworthy commitment levels. That implies telecommuting benefits your organization as well. Expand your pay by setting up side jobs. Meet Matt, a full-time visual planner situated in Chicago. Matt loves his work, which pays $55,000 every year. However, there's additional. At only 25, Matt's on target to have $1.5 million saved by his 30th birthday celebration, all thanks to the dog strolling business he set up only 3 years earlier as a destitute understudy. Matt began charging dog proprietors $5 a walk. From the start, he was just strolling around 10 dogs per week. In any case, at that point, more pooches moved into the area. He was so overpowered with a business that he needed to enlist individuals to fulfill needs. Presently, Matt has all the advantages that accompany all-day work, in addition to a side business that presents to him an extra $200,000 per year that he can save. Time for you to take action accordingly. The main message here is: expand your pay by setting up side jobs. Having a side business is a fundamental piece of accomplishing independence from the rat race. This is because regardless of how great your normal employment is, you'll just actually have the option to exchange your time for a set pay. Yet you, similar to Matt, can grow a side business that is producing cash with almost no exertion on your part, or all in all, automated revenue. Be vital when you're picking your side business, since you'll need to surrender your relaxation time to get your business going. It helps if you like what you do. Discover something that addresses your inclinations and abilities that will make you bound to stay with it. Whenever you've thought of an idea, research your possible rivalry. At the point when Matt began dog strolling, there were a couple of other individual rivals in his area. Matt developed his client base by offering clients a free stroll for each customer they alluded to, on the off chance that you find that there's no opposition. It may mean there's no market interest for your item or administration, or then again it could mean you've hit upon a brilliant thought. Don't be afraid to test the waters by launching your business and seeing if it takes. The vast majority need to attempt a couple of times before they discover a business that works. Simply downplay your beginning up expenses, so the danger of losing cash is low. Also, remember to expand your acquiring limit. Put away all the cash you make from your side business into your speculation account. This way you can accumulate the most extreme measure of self-multiplying dividends. Even the best financial strategy possibly works in the event that you set up it as a regular occurrence. The Creator's excursion to independence from the rat race started with him understanding he needed to accomplish something else. However, it's no simple errand to be an entrepreneur. Ward lost his employment in 2010 because of the downturn. Before that, he had delighted in boozy Saturday snacks with his companions, trailed by arrest. However, to arrive at his reserve funds target, he needed to scale these back to once every a few months and rather utilize the ideal opportunity for his side jobs. At the point when you choose to run after monetary freedom, you're deciding to run contrary to the natural order of things. Your loved ones may say that you don't have a clue what you're doing, that you're moronic for dismissing the counsel a great many people follow. This can make you waver, yet you must hop directly in. The main message here is: even the best financial strategy possibly works in the event that you set up it as a regular occurrence. In case you're going to liberate yourself from monetary concerns, you should be sufficiently fearless to make a plunge and begin, regardless of whether you don't believe you're prepared. Obviously, it's characteristic to linger when you're making a major life change. There will consistently be another book you can peruse or course you can take before you start. Be that as it may, for consistently your cash isn't compounding, you're losing abundance and expanding the years it will take to arrive at monetary freedom. Thus, everything you can manage is to start. Start today by making a meeting with your HR department to discuss that commitment coordinating plans. Or on the other hand, open an exacerbating venture record and set aside your first installment, regardless of whether it's simply $100. In the case of nothing else, just set aside an hour to mind map business thoughts. Also, don't feel like you need to know it all before you start. Actually, you'll commit errors. Everybody does. That is important for the learning venture. Any way you begin, you need to ensure you're focused on playing the long game. It required 5 years for Grant to arrive at his investment fund's target. It may take you longer, contingent upon your total assets and how rewarding your side jobs are. Remaining zeroed in on your objective will mean denying bunches of individuals, including your companions and your accomplice. Yet, forfeiting those lethargic ends of the week for a couple of years may get you many years of extra time later on. Watch out for the prize. It'll be justified. Despite all the trouble over the long haul. Final summary. The main message in these chapters. You won't ensure your monetary future just by putting aside the standard 5% of your compensation into a retirement reserve. Indeed, even individuals with enormous pay rates neglect to liberate themselves from work by overspending or not contributing astutely. Also, most of us trudge away in work areas, longing for an inaccessible future when our time is our own. In any case, everybody can begin utilizing cash to its maximum capacity at present. Apply the exercises in these chapters to upgrade what you acquire. Deal with your spending and put resources into a way that guarantees your progressing monetary security. This is the triumphant mix to acquiring independence from the rat race. Here is what you can implement starting today. Set up a regular hangout to discuss financial strategy. Discussing cash is a no-no in numerous networks. The greater part of us feels like cash is a private issue that shouldn't be talked about. Be that as it may, workshopping your monetary methodology with others is an extraordinary method to find out about augmenting investment funds, and it can likewise be inspiring. Why not set up a little gathering of relatives and companions and meet month to month to examine monetary methodology? This is an extraordinary method to trade notes. Stay centered and stay responsible. You like what you hear? Check out other personal development or business books. This video was made possible by your support. It takes a very long time to make one of our videos, so thanks to your contributions to Patreon and watching our videos, we are slowly able to do more and more of them. If you want to help us out, check out the Patreon page. If you like the contents of this video, check out other books in the description and suggest what book we should cover next.